The president's request for capital raising up to $2 billion through the establishment of a foreign currency dominated financial instrument issuance program in the domestic debt market by the DMO toward the implementation of the Presidential Executive Order number 16 of 2023. Those in favor of the recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
The Nigerian Senate has just approved a whopping sum of $21.5 billion loan request from President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration. Now, before we get into the details of this, it's important to understand that borrowing is not inherently a bad thing, because many nations borrow money to fund development. Now, the real issue lies in how the funds are being used. Will this money go into critical infrastructure, education, and healthcare? Or, as usual, will it vanish into the pockets of corrupt Nigerian politicians, only for taxpayers to shoulder the burdens of repayment? Because oftentimes, when borrowed money is misused, it's not the government that suffers. In fact, it's not the government that suffers it at all. It's the people who suffer the burden of repayment. So let's forge ahead. On July 22nd, 2025, the Nigerian Senate gave the approval to a $21.5 billion loan request, which is part of the 2025-2026 borrowing plan sent to the National Assembly. The plan, according to the executive, is meant to fund key infrastructure, energy, transport, and digital economy projects across the country. Now, according to the Senate sources, the funds will be sourced from international lenders like the World Bank, African Development Bank, and the Chinese Exim Bank, among others. Now, here is a breakdown of what the money is meant to cover: road and railway projects, power generation and transmission, broadband and digital infrastructure, climate resilient agricultural systems, healthcare and educational development. Well, on healthcare, maybe after this one, our politicians will no longer travel abroad for medical treatment. Well, in as much as many see this as a good move by the Tinubu's government, critics argue that Nigeria's rising debt profile, which is over $110 billion, is unsustainable. And so, activists and economists are asking, how will this debt be repaid? Why is Nigeria borrowing more when it can barely survive existing loans? Will the money truly reach the people? Now, on the flip side, the presidency says the borrowing is strategic and necessary to revive the economy, attract foreign investments, and improve Nigeria's infrastructure backbone. Well, on this note, critics also argue that where is all the money from fuel subsidy and other subsidies that have been removed by Tinubu's government entering? Because remember, we were told that money from subsidy will be used to revive the economy and there will be no more need for borrowing. Now, here is the big question. What does this mean for the average Nigerian? It can mean either better roads, good schools, electricity, and good hospitals. Or, on the flip side, it will mean more inflation, higher fuel hikes, and future tax burdens. It's actually a thin line, and once again, Nigerians will bear the weight of decisions made from the top. What's your take on this? Do you think this loan plan is a smart investment in Nigeria's future, or just more debt without direction? Let's hear from you in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Inside Africa 360 Media for more in-depth stories from across the continent.
In the presentation of the chairman, he make it loud and clear that having passed the medium-term expenditure framework, having passed the budget of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, next in line is the borrowing plan of the government for the financial year. As we are all aware that what we have as at the time we are passing the budget is a deficit budget. So how we make up for the deficit is a combination of what we have in both the local and the foreign debt. And what we have here is a clear cut of what contained the borrowing plan of the federal government for 2025-2026, as highlighted in this report. Mr. President, the committee has done a thorough job. The committee has painstakingly itemized each agencies of the government who is getting what as contained in the borrowing plan that was presented to this Senate by the executive. And the committee in this detailed report identify ministries by ministry, agencies by agencies of the government that is taking what in this borrowing plan document that we have. So, Mr. President, on that note, we can say that the budget 2025 implementation can now commence in full. That is, the revenue of the government combined with the borrowing plan of the federal government, we now have all sources of revenue to fund the 2025 budget in place by this singular action of passing the borrowing plan of the federal government into law this afternoon. Once again, I want to commend the Committee on Foreign and Local Debt for a job well done and for also ensuring that the full implementation of 2025 Appropriation Act can commence. Once again, Mr. President, distinguished colleague, I so submit. Thank you.
My name is Senator Abdul Ningi, and I represent Bauchi Center of Bauchi State. Mr. President, I listened to the committee presentation, and I listened to Senator Olamilekon, the chairman of Appropriation. First and foremost, Mr. President, this has to do with our collective inheritance. This is a loan that my generation and generation yet unborn will be saddled to payment or to paying. Yes, this is a proposed payment plan, borrowing plan, but in this document, there is no indication of how these loans will be paid. That is one. Secondly, if you look at the committee's report, on page 3, number 1, that the loan shall specify the purpose of which the borrowing is intended, which shall only be a long-term capital expenditure and human capital development. Going further on page 8, Mr. President, you will now take number 5 under the table. Most NDAs are unable to implement their capital projects effectively due to long delays in funding disbursement. The loans will go a long way to addressing this challenge. Inclusion of this project in the National External Borrowing Plan will enable financial closure and timely implementation. This is not specified. Which MDS and how much does each one goes? Open page 9. Number 8. Part of the loans will be used to fund priority projects such as railways, security, agriculture, power plants, housing, and digital connectivity to boost production. Mr. President, this needs specification. How much goes to in each? And therefore, go to page 10.
Leader, you have 1 minute remaining.
Go to page 10, Mr. President, with all due respect. The committee further notes that 12 states of Abia, Bauchi, Borno, Gombe, Kaduna, Katsina, Lagos, Niger, Oyo, Sokoto, Yobe, and Zamfara will benefit. These states will benefit how much? What is the demarcation? Finally, sir. Finally, Mr. President, take a look at our Constitution. Section 81, Section 82, Section 83, and Section 84. Mr. President, if you allow me another 1 minute, I will read these provisions. What am I saying? I understand the work put in by the committee, but I don't think the committee has done a job good enough for the presentation of this chamber. We all represent constituencies. We need to go home and say, this is how these monies when borrowed, will impact in either security, what amount in agriculture. When it comes to states, let's know how much goes into this state. But here, Mr. President, most of the provision.
With all due respect, former leader, your time is off. You've spoken more than 3-4 minutes. Thank you very much. Thank you.
It's okay, Mr. President. I thank you for the audience.
Thank you. You know, I gave you 2 minutes was allocated to him, but we gave him up to 3 minutes. Thank you. Chairman Finance Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President, and my distinguished colleagues. My name is Mohammed Sani Musa. First, we will want to commend the committee for doing a very good job, because most of the jobs that we are doing, well, what we did in the committee level is just to process what has already been approved in the medium-term expenditure framework. If you look at the borrowings, we have approved it right from the time we passed the MTEF 2025 to 2027. So, and the borrowing plan is spread over a period of almost 6 years of disbursement and execution. It's not a borrowing for 2025 to fund budget, no. It's a borrowing that was spread over a period of 6 years, cut across so many sectors: technology, agriculture, health, security, railways, infrastructure. And we have also, while we were working, there is complete breakdown of every of the loan. Even those from the subnationals were captured. And Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, there is no economy that advances without borrowing. And what we are borrowing in Nigeria today, compared to what we have and the prospects of what we have, especially with the tax reform that we have come up with, you will see that even as we are today, we have not defaulted one single time in our repayments. When he is talking about repayment plan, the repayment plan, especially from loans from multilateral, bilateral, or development partners, what they looked at is the revenue ratio to your GDP. And when they compare and they see that, yes, you are doing good and you have not defaulted, your rating still stands. So why should we not take this money to help Nigeria in many of the challenges that we're having, especially in food security, in security itself, and in our infrastructures, and everything is captured in this loan. So I believe that what the committee has done and what, with the wisdom of Mr. President, this is the best that we can do at this period.
Thank you for the wonderful insight into this issue, this report. Let me also call on the chairman, Senate Committee on Banking, to shed light to this report.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and my distinguished colleagues. My name is Senator Adetokunbo Abiru, and let me start by aligning myself with the very extensive work done by the chairman and, of course, some of my colleagues that have spoken. So, on my part too, let me also say that all of these borrowings that have been stated here, they are very much in compliance with all of the laws guiding borrowings by both the federal government and the state government. Whether you are talking about the Fiscal Responsibility Act, or the Debt Management Act as well, all of them are very much in compliance. And what are those acts saying? One, they must be for capital project and human capital development. Two, they also must also be long-term in nature, very concessional, and all of this so that they can attract low pricing. And all of these loans that we are discussing today, they follow all of that rules. And of course, we also have a complete breakdown showing all of the specifics. So speaking to Senator Ningi's concerns, all of the states that are stated here, and it cuts across almost all of the 36 states, and some also cluster of states that are also part of all of this. And the specific projects are well stated. He also exercised concern around the ability to repay. And I think the best barometer to look at is what this current government has done. This is a government that met debt service at almost 97% of the revenue of this country. Today, we are talking of a debt service that is lower, that is as low as 61%. So it shows that the capacity to repay, and these loans are also very evident. That's on one side. Equally important is that these loans, yes, 21 billion, 15 billion, Japanese, might strike very huge. But just like Senator Sonny Musa said, these disbursements are not done at a time. They are spread over a period of 6 years. They are all well spread out in this schedule. So I don't think there's anything to fear about, and I think that it is important that as long as we are in compliance with what the rules are, the laws are, we should do it. That's on one side. Then the same request that we are dealing with is also speaking about clearing some of the outstanding pensions of our workers. Again, we must also credit the current government. These are pensions that have been outstanding since 2014. So when we are hearing about the issuance of a bond to clean up some of this outstanding, we are also trying to motivate and encourage our workers so that they know that they will be earning. Their what's it called? Their reward is on earth, not when they die. Then lastly, they also talked about dollar issuance bond. That, again, yes, is a colossal amount of about $2 billion. But the truth is that what we are just doing is that we're just creating liquidity out of the domiciliary accounts that we have in this country so that it becomes very useful to the government. And it's not as if, Mr. President, if I have your attention, it's not as if they are going to use it. Part of what has been explained in this memo is that they want an approval to back that arrangement. But the monies will be ring-fenced and it will be subject to appropriation of these allo chambers before it is spent. So I also will support it. So on that note, I give my full backing to all of the requests.
Well, thank you. I think Senator Abiru has done it all. He has given the technical explanation needed. As a former MD of a bank, he gave us the technical explanation that is needed, and very, very thorough. Very, very thorough. I don't think anybody has anything to add. Okay, so Senator Victor, give the opposition aspect of of your perspective to what I've said.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Victor OFR. I represent Anambra Central Senatorial District. Mr. President, I rise to say that I support this borrowing plan. Yes, I do, because I was part of the committee that considered this. And I looked through the schedule of the things to be done with this money. I saw provisions made that all the 36 states of the Federation will benefit from in various interventions the government proposed. But most interestingly to me, Mr. President, for the first time, I have seen an elaborate provision made for money to be borrowed to build the Eastern Rail Line from Port Harcourt to Maiduguri. A provision that was put in the budget, $3 billion. I didn't need to look at any other thing to support this borrowing plan. Yes, because I've been on this chamber clamoring through motions that Eastern Rail Line corridor from Port Harcourt to Maiduguri should be reconstructed. Now, $3 billion have been provided for it. So this accords to the needs and desires of people who use that rail line. Among other things that I saw, the repayment plan, some of them have 20 to 35 years. It's not something that you borrow today and pay back tomorrow. So it gives the government the latitude to plan and they execute this necessary infrastructure for the benefit of all Nigerians. So on this note, Mr. President, I commend President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for heeding to the call for the construction of Eastern Rail Line. This is now the first time I'm seeing it provided for in the borrowing plan. So our people will be happy with it. I thank you very much.
So thank you very much. All has been said. The chairman banking has said it. Chairman finance committee has also explained it. Chairman appropriation also made his comment. Everything is now open, and the good thing is that the Southeast is no longer marginalized. It's no longer marginalized. So the Renew Hope program is working. You are now carried along. So this is good. You see, all parts of this country is carried along in this report. So thank you very much. We now go to recommendation. Now, recommendation. Based on above findings, the committee recommends that the Senate do approve the President's request for capital raising up to $2 billion through the establishment of a foreign currency dominated financial instrument issuance program in the domestic debt market by the DMO towards the implementation of the Presidential Executive Order number 16 of 2023. Those in favor of the recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you very much, members of this committee, and especially the chairman, for a job well done. You have done this Senate proud by producing a report that is very, very clear, straightforward, and quite, showing what the government is doing to bring prosperity to our nation. We can't thank you enough. I want to urge you that you continue the good work you are doing for the Senate and indeed the entire country. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.